Ford has been on a roll lately, getting rid of all their cars in favor of pushing overpriced trucks and SUVs. However, Ford CEO Jim Farley recently posted some news that Ford might actually be making cars again, and apparently he's already shown it to dealers. But we actually don't have to wait for that car to come out. There's currently another new car that Ford just started selling, and it's totally destroying Dodge and Chevy. But before I show you what Ford has been up to, we need to talk about two iconic American cars that Ford is totally crushing in sales. And we're starting here at Dodge because honestly, it's the one that has me the most depressed. Now let's be honest here, Ford doesn't really have to do much to kill off Dodge. Dodge is pretty much already doing that to themselves. And I'd say part of that blame goes to the foreign leadership of Stellantis that has just basically taken over an iconic American brand and is trying to turn it into this compact, subcompact, EV-powered piece of garbage. And that's why vehicles like this 392 Challenger are slowly dying. They're not making any more, and they're trying to replace it with this EV Challenger thingy with like a hatchback that is just obviously terrible, and it makes a car that was already big and bloated as a sports car even more big and bloated. So the days of Dodge making something cool like the Challenger with the 392 engine, the awesome headlights with an intake through one of them, and the hood tie downs are pretty much coming to an end. And the sad part about it, they're not making any more. Dodge has like a few of these final editions that come out every now and then those are like 120 to 150 grand with dealer markups. And they'll even most of the time just let them sit on the lot until they eventually sell, even if it takes them 2 years. And as far as the Charger goes, this is a bit what like a base Charger looks like. And I actually think this orange color is pretty cool. Now I'd like to show you, a new Hellcat Charger or something like that, but those are getting harder and harder to find. And here at the Dodge Ram Chrysler Jeep dealership, this is the only Charger that I can find on this lot, and it's a used 2022 model because the new ones are dead and they really don't exist anymore. And for me, it's sad to see an iconic American brand like Dodge just be destroyed by corporate turds that don't understand what this car behind me actually means to the American people. Now, none of us want to see Dodge die. I want to see an improved, modern version of the next Challenger, of the next Charger. And because one of the reasons that Dodge says, hey, we got to get rid of the V8s is that they're blaming government regulation and the EV push and all this stuff. And honestly, that's a load of crap. I think they're purposely just trying to kill the brand. Why? I don't really know. Maybe I'll have to investigate that a little bit more. But I just don't think they want to keep Dodge alive. I think they want to kill it, and I think they want to take cool cars like this out of the hands of the American people, and they want to see them rot. And by they, I mean the foreign company that currently owns this great American brand. So I think that the Dodge and all the other associated brands like Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram need to be put back in the hands of the American people. So if any of you American billionaires are just bored and need something to do and you want to make a little bit more money, I think you should buy Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Chrysler, all the CDJR stuff, and please, someone for the love of God, turn it back around, make some cool cars, lower some prices on these trucks, and get them pushing again and being competitive. And with the death of an iconic American brand like Dodge comes the death of the other vehicle that Ford is totally dominating. And let's talk about that right now. So the next vehicle on this list that Ford is totally dominating as far as sales go is the Chevrolet Camaro. And the funny thing about the Camaro is I actually had to go to a Toyota dealership to find a cool looking Camaro that wasn't just a normal V6 one. And luckily I found these two right on the corner of the busy intersection in probably two of the neatest colors that you could ever want in an American muscle car. Now, some of you might not like this really, really bright highlighter yellow color or this blue, which actually I like better. But seeing these two American muscle car icons side by side in a really bright sporty color just makes the sports car person inside of my heart really, really happy. But unfortunately, Chevy has officially killed the Camaro, and apparently they're never gonna make it again. So what are we gonna do when an iconic brand like Chevy stops making one of the coolest sports cars that they have ever made? And I'll tell you right now, these two Camaros here are also a little bit more of the special version. Now, these are not the 1LE, which is the fast track ready version of the car, but these two right here are both the Camaro SS, which is pretty much as close to getting like a track pack as you can get before you step up to the 1LE package. And honestly, these cars look so good. I like the side skirts that they have here. The wheels are really good for a factory wheel. The brakes are Brembo, and they are massive. I mean, they fill up this entire 20-inch wheel well, and 20s on a car is huge anyways. You have this massive front lip that just looks so aggressive, and they actually did a good job. I don't see too many scrapes on the front here, with the exception of a little nick right there. And this yellow is a little bit less aggressive of a package. There's no lip on the front, there's no side skirt, and this is a little bit more of the street design type of spoiler on this SS Camaro. And of course the brakes are a little bit smaller, but still on a 20-inch wheel. But the great thing about American muscle cars like that Dodge Charger that you saw and the Chevy Camaro is on the used market, they're just a really, really good price and value for the money. Now, I was just looking at a new Nissan Z that I was potentially gonna buy. Not a new one, but I was gonna get one that was like a year old with about 10,000 miles. And the new Z was still $45,000 because the MSRP of that new Z was 55 grand, which is way too much for a Z, by the way. And I've owned a lot of Zs back when I was in my early 20s. But you can pick up this used Camaro SS with only 12,000 miles for $41,995. And in my opinion, this is probably a better buy than something like the new Z, just because of what you get for the money. You get a really high horsepower V8 engine, which is the most important thing, in a really nice color, in a very track capable vehicle. And that's the thing about these modern Camaros that I like better than the Chargers and Challengers is while those vehicles from Dodge are really good at straight line stuff, they're not great at turning. But trim levels like the SS Camaro, they do much better on the track when it comes to the turns. And the one big difference between Dodge and Chevy is that even though the Camaro is dying and going away, Chevy is keeping the muscle car alive somewhat. And that's with the Chevy Corvette. And funny enough, it's actually right next to the Camaro SS right here. But Chevy's at least trying to keep the muscle car alive with this new mid-engine version of the Corvette. But like any Corvette, it's kind of expensive. This is used with 14,000 miles and it's $72,995. But my big question about the Corvette is it's still a muscle car now that it's mid-engine. Unlike the previous generation Corvette, which they have one right here as well. This is really convenient for me, to be honest. All of these being in a row right here just kind of makes it a little bit easy on me driving around all over the place, because I own a Jeep and gas is expensive. But with the new Corvette not being front engine and it being mid-engine, does that take its muscle car prowess away? And that leads me to the point of this video, and that's with Ford and some of the new cars that they have recently released, and a really interesting new one that's coming out really soon. I made it to Ford so we can finally talk about the Ford car that is just totally crushing Dodge and Chevy in sales and basically just in general. And that car is clearly the Ford Mustang. And this new Mustang came out and it is totally dominating Dodge and Chevy in the sports car segment. And honestly, it's also killing the Toyota Supra and the Nissan Z. At first, when the new Mustang came out, I didn't really like the design. I called it the Kia-fication of the Ford Mustang, and I think a lot of people thought the same thing as well. And really for me, that comment doesn't come from the front end of the car, it actually comes from this. The angles on the rear and the way the taillights are just kind of made it look like a Kia Telluride. If you've seen a Kia Telluride, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I think they really killed it on the design. Now, there's a lot to like about the new Mustang, and there's really one big thing that I hate. First of all, we gotta talk about colors, because Ford always has really good colors on the Mustang, and there's two of my favorite colors specifically that are here, and a couple that I just don't see on the lot very often. One of my favorite colors is this blue. I think it stands out really, really well and just looks gorgeous in the sunlight. And there is a tiny bit of sparkle to it. I don't know if you could see it, but there's just the right amount of flake in that blue color. And the other color, actually there's three, is white. You can never go wrong with a white Mustang. And on this edition here, they actually have some bronze wheels on it. And white and bronze is a color combo you can never go wrong with. And that last color is this metallic gray. Now it's not a flat gray like you would see on some of the performance versions of the car, but it is a nice metallic gray color, and it looks really good in the light and like at sunset. But I'm here at Kendall Ford and Meridian to talk about this Mustang, and they were kind enough to actually give me the keys to a new Mustang GT, and let me give you a little tour of that right now. And at the same time, we're both going to be looking at this for the first time. I've never sat in a new Mustang, so this will be a first time. And I'm actually going to compare it to a Mustang I previously owned. I had a Mustang GT 350R all blacked out, and so I'm going to be a little bit critical because I am a Mustang GT 350 snob. Now, as we're walking over here towards the Mustang GT, I got to talk about a few things that Ford is doing right and a couple things that make me a bit annoyed with what Dodge and Chevy and basically the excuses they're making for not continuing with V8 muscle cars. First of all, Dodge and Chevy are saying that they have to stop making these V8 muscle cars due to regulations and EV stuff and the transition and blah, blah, blah. And that's really a load of BS. Why is that? Because if it was really government regulations stopping them from making amazing V8 muscle cars with the Camaro and the Challenger and the Hellcats and all that stuff, Ford would be doing the same thing. Ford would be stopping production of the Mustang. And in a recent article, CEO Jim Farley actually said, basically his words were, "We will continue to make the V8 Mustang until it's illegal." And so the stance that he's taking on continuing the legacy of the Mustang and the muscle car, I can really appreciate and get behind. Now, this is the new Mustang GT with the 5-liter V8 engine that everyone loves. It's easy to tune, it's easy to maintain, makes a crap ton of power with just a little bit of mods. And honestly, the GT version, this is a premium, actually looks pretty darn good as well. There's some more details on the front end. It's got this really awesome venting in the hood to let the heat out. And I can actually put my fingers in there because it's functional. It's not just some fake vent. And obviously the best part of any Mustang GT is that 5-liter V8 engine. And what's cool about this one is it has double throttle bodies and intakes in here, which definitely helps a lot for increasing the airflow into the engine, which when you increase the airflow just makes it easier to make more power. Engines love air, they love to breathe, they love to pull in as much air as possible. And this one does a really great job on it. And also I like the little touch of the carbon fiber engine cover right here. I think that's just absolutely cool right there. But here's what I really want to see, and that's the interior, because there's some stuff I love about the inside, and then the one big thing that I hate is in there as well. Open this up. Now, the Mustang interior has always felt a little bit cheap, especially on the S550 and previous generations of the Mustang. But actually, as I sit inside the interior here of this Mustang, it doesn't feel as cheap as some of the other versions. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This stuff on the top, I don't know what kind of material it is. Some material nerds in the comments, let me know. But it's a little bit soft. It doesn't feel like hard, rattly plastic. The leather goes all the way across the center here, and it's stitched. Very, very nice stitching here. There's a little bit of carbon fiber looking trim around here. It's definitely plastic, but it's not super hard, but it's definitely like a fake carbon fiber looking stuff, which is not too terrible. And then down here, as you continue on the bottom of the door, all the way up to here, that's where the cheap plastic stuff kind of comes back on the areas that you're not going to be touching. But as far as all the surfaces on the door, in the center console here, it's all appointed very, very nicely. And the leather continues all the way across in this carbon fiber look here. And even though the dash looks plasticky, it's actually a little bit more of a soft touch material as well. And another cool thing about the inside of the Mustang, this steering wheel that has a flat bottom, I thought I would hate the flat bottom, but it's actually kind of nice for a tall person like myself because I'm right at 6 feet, and once I get in here and I adjust the steering wheel up to a level that I like and then lock it in, there's actually not much clearance for my legs here. I maybe have 2.5 inches, and just this being flat gives me a little bit of extra clearance. And now, before I show you my absolute favorite thing about this new Mustang, I need to show you the elephant in the room, the big thing that I just cannot stand, and that is this digital gauge cluster. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this digital cluster. On one hand, the nerd in me likes the animations, loves how clean and simple everything is, but the one gripe about it, it's not that I hate the digital cluster entirely. I just hate how it's integrated. It looks like it's just kind of set in here on top of the dash with no amount of design thought, being brought into the mix. I really liked my GT350R because it had that classic double hump with a little space here and the other hump right here that the Mustang has always had. And this is the first one that actually got rid of the hump. I think if they just did a little bit of integration, separated the screens, or did some sort of larger hump that actually integrated the screen into the dash, instead of just plopping it down like Kia does in some sort of lazy manner, I think it would have just made all the difference in the world. Other than that, I don't mind the new screens. I get that's kind of where everything is going, but it's just not my favorite. Another thing that's not my favorite is how every control is integrated into the dash. And that means all your AC, your steering, your heated seats, all of that is right here. And there's no simple controls just to quickly get to everything. And I think distracted driving is one of the biggest problems with driving today. We're always looking at our phones. Now we're always looking at screens in cars. And you can't just go down and touch a physical button by feel or by muscle memory anymore. You have to keep looking at the screen because the buttons just, there's no feedback, there's nothing. So you have to look down off the road onto the screen to make any kinds of changes. Other than that, everything about the new Mustang is cool. And my favorite part is the sound. I just revved it there, but in order for you to really hear the sound, I got the microphone under my shirt. Let me just go set it over there closer. Hello, hello. Okay, I gotta admit, this thing sounds pretty darn good, and you even got some crazy pops and crackles going on there, which really the Mustang needs that. None of this Mach-E bullcrap with electronic stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Now, just like all the other Fords that I've talked about in the videos, the prices of the Mustang have gone up. It's not as extreme as like the F-150 or anything like that. So this new premium version of the Mustang, it's a 2024 Mustang GT Premium, and it does have the automatic transmission on this one. Obviously, there's plenty of other ones where you could get the 6-speed manual. And the one good thing about the 6-speed manual is they use the newer Tremec 6-speed that was previously in like the GT350s and the Mach 1. So the transmission automatically is way, way better than the previous generation because that old transmission was just terrible. So a new one with the auto tranny has an MSRP of $55,685. But just like all the other Fords on most of these lots nowadays, you can get a discount. And right now this one has a discount of $3,200 from the dealership, bringing it to $52,468. And for a modern muscle car that continues the legacy of the Mustang, I think honestly that's totally worth paying. I would pay that any day. Now, would I rather have a lower price? Yes. Would I rather probably wait a couple of years and buy a new one at like 45 grand? Absolutely, that's what you should probably do instead. Now, remember in the beginning of the video when I said Ford is coming out with a new car? Now, I did show you that this new Mustang was out, but actually they're planning on doing a somewhat four-door sedan version of the new Mustang. And how do I know that? Well, let me show you something here. This article on the Drive says everything. Ford has secretly shown a Mustang sedan to dealers. And so Ford CEO Jim Farley wasn't kidding when he said he wanted to make a four-door Mustang. Now, they do have a four-door Mustang Mach-E, but I don't consider this personally to be a Mustang. I think they should have left the Mustang label off of it. They could have named it something else and sold just as many. But Jim Farley is realizing that they shouldn't have completely got rid of their cars. Some people still want something small like the Focus, and we all know nobody really likes the Escape. It just honestly kind of sucks. And the Focus was much cooler anyways, especially when they had the Focus RS, which is a car that I really miss seeing on the road. But this article goes a little bit more into detail and says, not only is a Mustang sedan a possibility, but it's already being planned over in Detroit, as Ford showed dealers such a car during a recent closed-door meeting. During this meeting, dealers were reportedly given a snapshot of Ford's plans for the near future, and a Mustang sedan was one of them. So it's nice to see that Ford is continuing the legacy of the muscle car, keeping the V8 engine alive. And my hope is that Dodge and Chevy gets their crap together and create something new. I'd like to see a new V8 version of the Camaro with an updated design that kind of harkens back to a classic, and let's hope Dodge does the same thing. Because right now, the Mustang as a muscle car has no competition.